I call the regular monthly meeting of the Economic Development Authority of the City of Portsmouth to order. And good morning to everyone. So glad to see everyone here. And hopefully we can get through our business without any delay. We don't have a long agenda, but you know how that works sometimes. Things just don't always go as you predict. So thanks again, and we will follow our normal process of order. Mr. Donahue will take us through the agenda, starting with the roll call.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioners, Councilman Battle and City Manager Jones. I'll read the roll now. Mr. Barber.
Present.
Mr. Drury. Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Smith. And Mr. Smith.
Here.
Chair, we do have a quorum. The first item on your agenda is the adoption of the meeting minutes from your February 15th regular meeting. Those were provided to you in the package that went out on Friday. If there's any discussion, we're happy to entertain that now. Barring none.
Moving for adoption.
Second.
Motion by Saunders Smith. And a second by Mr. Barber. We roll. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Saunders Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The minutes are adopted as submitted. The next item is your financial report from February, and we do have both Ms. Barisha and Ms. Phillips here this morning. Ms. Phillips, glad you're able to join. I will turn it over to our finance representative.
I will make this very brief. I know you have a lot of things, but February's cash is $1,686,777. So not much happened during February. Just as a recap, you had some interest, you had some rent, and then you paid some bills. That's no land sale. So without going into a whole lot of detail, but your cash, as you probably heard last month, we moved some of it under the city treasurer. So we're still maintaining a small amount at Atlantic Union, but that could change, over as we get more comfortable with this. Net position unrestricted is $12,146,831. So we have increased from the June 30 audit. On the income statement side, as I said earlier, you've got some rental income during the month and 122,000 year to date, but roughly 14,000 during the month of February. And the interest expense, on some of your loans, up about 6,000, and you had some utility costs new during the month, roughly 10,000, 32,000 to date. So during the month, you had year to date a change in position of 75,694 to the good, which is about 4,000 less than where you were last month. The decrease just during the month of February. In your package is a list of all the land inventory, and also there's a little sheet that just shows land sales year to date and so forth. And there's also a budget to actual sheet if you need that. And I think there's even some grant summary. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Of course, anytime you have questions, either now or later, don't hesitate to call either Flora or I.
Okay, doesn't sound like we have any questions or follow-up needs on the financials, so we'll move on to old business. And Chairman Smith, I'll turn it over to you for this item.
As you may recall, we agreed to make a request for a meeting with the city council, and that request was granted. I sent a letter to the mayor and to the city clerk, and, you know, with the understanding that, you know, we wanted to talk directly with council. We preferred not to have, you know, any formal presentation, PowerPoints or whatever. It's just a dialogue with council members as to, and us as to, you know, what we would like to know as far as their plans and their thoughts and their efforts of going forward. So I mentioned specifically, you know, some of the properties, about 5 of the waterfront properties and some other properties across the city. So and because of that discussion and the reasons to discuss those, it will probably more likely have to be a closed session, because we're going to talk about specific properties and the things that's going on with them. So our time, as you see, is 5 on the April 26th, and we have up until, according to the city clerk, 6:30 to conclude and have that discussion. So our members, if you have anything in particular that, you know, you want to ask or you want to bring up, just get those thoughts together. And it's not a requirement that you you know, submit anything, but just keep in mind, you know, that we're going to be talking about, you know, the development of various citywide properties. So if you have some other concerns or things that you want to bring to the table, that's going to be the time to do it. So just wanted everybody to know what the gist of the meeting was. Anyone have any questions or comments about the meeting? And on the other part, as far as the housing authority, Mr. Donahue and myself, we did sit down, and Ms. Winston and the executive director, we and the chair of the housing authority, and we did sit down and got a very clear understanding of their direction and the mode that they're operating and moving in. So we don't really see a need to meet with them jointly unless some of you want to do that, just to, I guess, meet and greet. But our main concern, you know, was also to, you know, get in our minds and to hear what their direction is. And so, and I will say, I think it was okay to say that they're going to be more focused on housing for seniors and low income. So, but we still need to keep in close communication with them to let them know, you know, where we're headed, so that we won't be working against each other, or that there are any negative perceptions about from one against the other. So any questions about that? We're still working on getting with Mr. Baldwin to come and meet with us to talk about the planning process. That's yet to be worked out.
I have a question. Collectively, have we organized our thoughts as to what we're going to present to this joint council meeting?
Yeah, we've discussed it before. I have a list of 5 things here that I presented to them. I can share it with you.
Please do, yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you. We'll continue on with the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Your next item is a update on the Rivers Casino Portsmouth project. We are very pleased to report that the property sale and transfer of land, the casino site closed on Friday, March 11th. So that transaction has taken place. I'd like to thank Jeff and Kelsey and their team for overseeing that closing and the disposition of the EDA's property there to support the project. If you haven't been by lately, I would suggest you take a ride by the site. It's really incredible the amount of progress that's been made. This is a photo from yesterday showing just the tremendous amount of activity out there at the casino site. The project has gone vertical, as you can see, as of February. So they have been placing steel and working to enclose the building with a target of having everything under roof by May of this year, working towards their goal of opening in early 2023. I think February is kind of their target, if not sooner. We're happy to report that in a recent meeting with their general manager, Mr. Roy Corby, and their other team members, they are going to begin the process of performing some community outreach and engagement for career opportunities at the casino here in the coming month. And their goal is to begin training individuals in June for those positions. So they will be putting folks through car dealer schools and so forth to get them trained and ultimately certified to work at the casino. So you're going to see an uptick in additional activity in addition to the construction taking place. But it's really an impressive site, and it's an exciting time for Portsmouth. So I would encourage you, if you haven't driven by Victory Boulevard, to take a trip over and take a look. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the closing, but we are looking at moving forward with paying off some of the debt associated with the site through the sale proceeds that were received at closing. So we'll be working through that with our finance representatives here in the next week or two, and then we'll have some further discussions about how we proceed thereafter.
Right.
Okay, moving on to new business, we do have a few items to address this morning. The first is a update on your new 2022 business investment grant programs. I am happy to report we've had a significant amount of activity and interest in the programs you launched beginning in January, and I do not expect you to be able to read what's on the screen here. I believe this was included in your package with the financial report, but just wanted to touch on the activity to date and interest we've had in the programs. And I'll go program by program just to give you a quick update on where we are over the last 2.5 months since the program's launch. The real property investment grant, we've had probably the largest interest in that program, which is kind of the revamped, relaunched version of your local incentive program. And to date, we have approved 5 applications totaling $65,000. That is not including the applications you will have for consideration today. So that leaves a balance of $235,000 from your allocation for the current fiscal year. We do have a number of applications under review, currently 10. So we are quickly working to disperse these funds into the community. And we have had a large level of interest in this program. The second program is your Smart Start business development program. That's for new businesses, startups, and entrepreneurship ventures that are launching in the city. You will see we have not approved or expended any of those funds yet. That's because those individuals are currently in our training program to get them to a loan-ready business plan position. So we currently have 5 individuals who are in the pipeline that we are working with and reviewing. So I would expect that at your next April meeting, you will see some of these individuals and their businesses moving through and receiving grant funding. And the last is the Smart Start Business Acceleration Grant. Again, this is for existing businesses between 3 and 7 years, where we are assisting them with their expansion and growth. And we have had 4 applications that have been approved. Again, this is an administrative review and approval process. So we have committed 20,000 of your 100,000 that you've allocated to the program so far to date. Obviously, leaving a balance of 80,000 in the program. And we have another 5 businesses in the pipeline for this program. So you can see over the last 2.5 months since we launched the programs, we've really had a tremendous amount of interest, and we've been working hard to quickly review their applications and get the money out into the business community. So just wanted to kind of provide a recap on where we are, and certainly happy to answer any questions. This will be a recurring report we'll provide to you on a monthly basis.
Yeah, Brian, I know it's early in the program, but as we get a little bit more experience, just it would be helpful to give us some background as to the types of businesses and the character of the business as well, in the report.
Yes, Councilman Bell.
What were the numbers on the casino closing?
In terms of the financial
Yes,
numbers, sure. So the property sale post, I guess the best way to explain this is the total sale proceeds after any deductions. The total sale proceed was $14,590,050. And then, as I had mentioned just a few minutes ago, we do have a few loans and notes tied to the project that will be paid off. So we do have the bond that was issued for the acquisition of the property. So that will be paid off this week is our intent there. And that is just over $5.2 million. So that will be deducted from those sales proceeds. We do have 2 other loans that are outstanding that the intent would be to pay those off as well. So after all of that is resolved, we would expect to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $7.6 million in the EDA's coffers following those debts being satisfied.
Brian, I just looking at the inventory of the land. How much did the total investment in land cost the EDA? Which properties were those? I'm looking at was it Victory Village? And that's $5,242,000.
It was a large portion of Victory Village, and then a portion of the other standalone property that was acquired also.
Okay. Is that Victory Boulevard or Village Way? Or do you know what? We can get with you on that.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that, the EDA had made an investment on that.
It's 2 questions, Brian. We can expect a summary of the investment grants. So Q1 or something that summarizes dollar spent, business types, etc. I know we do a summary package. I'm just trying to when we're going to see that.
So what I think we'll do is, based on some of the questions and requests for additional information, we will work to expand the report that goes out in your financial report, so it will include that information. I've noticed here on this report that's on the screen, again, it's hard to read, but we are not listing the property addresses, so we'll make sure we're expanding the report to tell you what type of business, which this does include any type of small women or minority-owned business being identified. I believe that's shown as well. We'll go ahead and expand to have some additional information there, and that will be a recurring monthly report that you will receive. So we won't do that quarterly. We'll do it every month.
And my second question is that obviously there's a lot of people interested in the program, but do you have a sense of how they're finding out about the program? Is it through referrals, is it through our social media, is it going through our website? Do you have a sense?
I think it's a mixture of each. I think word of mouth has been a very good resource for disseminating the information throughout the city. So that has been, I think, one of the ways that a lot of folks have found out about the program is that, you know, they're informing other business owners in their community. So word of mouth has been, I think, a good tool and resource, but we've been pushing it out through social media, email blasts, our website, the city's social media accounts as well, to make sure that it's out in the community and is known. And of course, when we meet or engage with a business, we're bringing it to their attention as well as a local incentive that we're able to offer also.
A question. You said we have four businesses pending in Smart Start Business Development that haven't finished the training yet. So
We
so
have
no,
five.
Five?
Five, yes.
is the same thing for the Smart Start Business. Are there any people pending in that category as well?
We have another five.
Another
So there are
five.
five in each program that are currently working through the process. And
Okay.
Yeah, and it would be helpful, Brian, for us to get that in advance. That's a lot of information to disseminate, so, and getting it before you, once you sit down, there's not enough time to really look at it, so if you would, you know, get that to us in advance.
we'll work to continue doing that. This was in your financial report
Right.
package, so we'll include it. I think we'll work to update it, expand it a little bit further to provide some additional information, but this will go out every month with your other financial information as well.
That's about,
To echo my colleague, Mr. Whitaker's points, are there any minority involved here?
yeah.
Yes, sir,
It's
there
under
are.
business type?
They are identified, and I will, my eyes aren't as great as they used to be, but I do believe
And the
that
business.
all of the businesses shown on this report, with the exception of one, are minority-owned businesses.
He'll be so elated.
Are there any other questions on this? Okay. Okay, well, moving on to a related topic, we do have 3 applications for your consideration this morning. They are all under the Real Property Investment Grant program, and I'm going to have our team members present those to you. So at this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Jackie Kraft to share the first 2 items for your consideration.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
So this first request is from Toddler Child Daycare Center. They're located at 603 Hanson Avenue, which is in the Truxton community. They are currently, like I said, a daycare center. They currently have about 45 students. So they are requesting funds to build out their current center. They're going to add 3 additional classrooms, including a restroom, and hopefully increase their capacity another 35 students. They'll be preschool age. So their total investment in this project is $120,000 and for 120 for, let me go back, $120,400. And they are requesting $25,000, which is the minimum max that we are able to provide. And as you can see right here, this is a before picture, but this is currently outdoor space. So this is the space that will be converted into 3 additional classrooms as shown right here.
I do have a few questions, because I was reading this last night. So and this one just came up to me. So where is their outdoor space moving to?
They'll still have additional space, outdoors, but it'll be reduced significantly. The owner is prepared to take the classes out individually, so they'll still have that outdoor time. And it won't be as crowded on the playground, but they'll still have outdoor time.
And so this is in a neighborhood, correct? I didn't drive over. Okay, so is that gonna impact the parking in the neighborhood? Because when I was looking at it on Google Maps last night, I mean, it's all residential around it. And they're okay with it?
She did not mention that there will be a parking impact, and most of these students are gonna be dropped off. So
Right.
the only, I guess, existing impact would be the additional staff that she'll be hiring,
Okay.
which would be 3 additional teachers as well as 2 part-time teachers. So there is a job creation component to this as well.
And if, Mr. If you look to the left there, there's a parking lot for our employees.
Yeah, no, I was thinking more. I mean, if you're talking 35 kids, you're probably talking about 20 more cars
You know,
dropping off.
But they just dropping off, and
Right.
she's on a off-side street,
Okay,
so she's not, Truxton Avenue is the main street,
right.
and she's like a cut-through street, so
Okay.
it's not a problem. I've been there many times, had some of my family members attend, so
Okay.
it's, and what you can see, you can't see all of the back property.
Mhm.
It goes almost to the adjoining
So
property
it
in
goes
the
farther
back.
back. Okay,
Yeah, so there is more space there.
okay.
I would, excuse me, also, Commissioner Drury, just to add that, as part of the permitting process, they do need to obtain, review and approval from the zoning official's office. So that's part of that approval process for her to
Has it already been approved? That has
have
not been
her
approved yet, though.
permits issued. So she does have a permit, so that process has
Okay.
been completed. So any parking requirements that would have been,
That is part of it.
requiring review under that process would have been addressed at that time.
So she's already been through zoning and that's already been approved?
Yes, she
That's
has
what
a building permit
Okay.
for the work.
Because I mean, with both parents having to work nowadays, there is a great need for childcare.
And they were recently before council, there's a right of way, a pretty wide right of way, adjoining the properties and all of the properties on Truxton. And council granted them permission to acquire that half of that right of way. And then the folks that live on Truxton have the other half.
And they are,
Yes, sir. Yes.
they are professionally staffed. It's a wonderful operation. And most of the kids that go there are at first grade level reading once they enter school.
Sorry, I didn't mention the owner's name. It's owned by Cox Ford Enterprises. And it's run by a husband and wife, Teresa Cox Ford.
Okay, are there any additional questions on this item here? And again, she's requesting $25,000, which
That's
is the
correct.
maximum grant amount.
That's correct.
Wow.
Move approval.
A second.
Okay, let me just make sure I'm capturing this correctly. So the motion was by Mr. Barber and the second was by Ms. Smith.
I think I was just louder.
Okay. Just want to make sure I captured that correctly. Chairman, if somebody's aboard, I'll go ahead and read the roll.
Yeah.
For vote. Okay, Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Mr. Drury,
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The motion passes by a vote 7-0. Okay, the next item is also being presented by Ms. Kraft.
So this property is located at 3421 Portsmouth Boulevard. The tenant, Serena Mann, is also the business owner for individuals making positive active change. And she hopes to turn this current building into a community resource center that will offer financial literacy classes, as well as fitness health and connecting local residents to resources that are available in the community. She is planning to invest a total of $50,705, and she is requesting a grant amount or reimbursement grant amount in the amount of $15,000.
Do you have any, okay.
So the work that she plans to do include, see, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But it's basically interior renovation, electrical work, reflooring and painting on the outside and inside, as well as signage.
Is this a new business?
It will be a new business, yes, ma'am.
And it's a reimbursement, so she's gonna put up her own finances beforehand.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And she will have some parking issues.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I said she will have some parking issues. This is right around the corner from the one we just saw, and there's a very small, if you look at that picture, very small parking area next to the building and just in front of the building.
A lot of work for 50,000. Yeah. Was it a restaurant before or
It was a
bar?
barber shop.
Oh, with a
on the
pool
left, and
table in
then
it.
a little store, like a convenience store on the right.
Is it essentially like a reentry program to help citizens like re-enter community workforce? So exactly what is it again?
Well, she's currently, she has another business with Serena Man, the credit doctor. And she also has a daycare. So what she's been doing is helping the parents of that daycare with financial literacy programs. So she's turning what she's already been doing into an actual business. So this building will serve as like a resource center where even parents of her childcare students or people that are in the local neighborhood can come and find out what resources are available to them to provide financial literacy workshops. She'll also do some credit repair training, as well as a list of other things to get them to a holistic place of self-sustaining livelihood.
I would move for approval, but don't we have an issue now with the reimbursement grant? With somebody, we have an issue with somebody looking for money back from a grant that was supposed to be settled now?
Not sure what you're referring to.
I'd like some additional information on this particular one, only because not so much about it's probably going to be a good business, but it does look like a lot of work for the amount of money. And I don't know if you want to go down the road of assisting and they get stuck because they don't have enough money to finish it. Our money is gone.
Well, it's a reimbursement, so we will be paying them afterwards.
That's correct. And Ms. Kraft, can you just kind of revisit the amount of work she's performing and the total cost, just to confirm the total value?
So she's investing a total amount of $50,000 into the property. And like I said, it includes electrical work as well as flooring and painting, a basic interior renovation of the current space. And she's requesting $15,000.
Can you go back to the picture that had the interior?
And I think for me, what I'm struggling with is some pictures of what the final interior design is gonna look like. And sometimes when people come forward with requests, they kind of give us a before and after of what it can look like. And
Right, we don't have any structural after renderings, only the current site plan.
So these are the building plans. I believe these were in your package that went out on Friday. So she has been consulting with an architect and they have been assisting her with that process. So, the scope of work is something that, professional has provided assistance with. So I do feel comfortable and confident that the amount of work, the expense she's identified is accurate based on that because she has had an architect involved. And she is undertaking the entire project but for the work that you all would be funding. So she has obviously not started that yet because that is a requirement. The work that is under consideration has not been started, but there is additional work in the building that she's already started on that she is going to be covering on her end with her private funds. So she's commenced on that side.
But if push comes to shove and there is an overrun on it, she would have the ability to come back and request an additional up to the maximum.
So for this project here, anything above would be on her. And again, she's paying for all of this, so it's a reimbursement. It's my understanding, I believe she has received administratively some funding.
Right.
So she has received some funding for some of the work that she started on, but that was administratively approved.
Okay.
So she would be maximizing the 25,000.
Should be maximum.
15,000
All right.
would max it out, and that's why it's before you.
Okay.
Because of the fact that you all need to approve anything over 10. So she has started the other work, and again, she's required to spend all the money up front and then come back and ask for reimbursement after completion. And that includes the issuance of her certificate of occupancy. So she would have to actually be finished to obtain that funding.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brown and a second by Mr. Barber. I will read the roll. Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Ms. Drury?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
No.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes, reluctantly.
And Chairman Smith?
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes by a vote of 6-1. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Third real property investment grant application I have for you is for 600 Court Street, and Miss Jenny Osborne will be presenting that for your consideration.
Morning.
So 600 Court Street, we have a request for $25,000, which is a reimbursement for Privilege Premier Restaurant. This space has been vacant for several years now. And the proposed renovations, first of all, this group has received all their permits and approvals. They've been before Planning Commission twice and were heard and seen before City Council the most recent meeting. They are asking for reimbursement for expenses that include, you can see again, like Ms. Kraft's project, there's a lot of work to be done. They are going to be bringing their kitchen, installing all new kitchen equipment to bring it up to restaurant standards, which will include electrical work and plumbing for the range hood. They'll be removing and replacing all lighting. It is in serious need of some HVAC ductwork. They'll be doing some plumbing and renovating the restrooms to make them ADA compliant. Fireboard in the kitchen. They'll also be installing grease traps and backflow preventers in the kitchen and restroom areas, and then replacing flooring and painting interior, exterior, windows, and a door. So again, they're asking for a $25,000 reimbursement. Their out-of-pocket expense for this project will exceed $80,000, and they have received all their approvals.
Was this the pool hall before? Like years ago, in the
So,
early 2000s?
Historically, speaking, the last use of this property was a pottery studio. I think the name was Orzo. And prior to that, it was a restaurant, Thumpers.
Thumpers, that's it.
If you've been here for,
Yes.
you know, a few years,
Hi,
you
yes.
probably.
I remember Thumpers. I don't remember the pottery studio.
It was called Orzo, yeah.
Yeah,
Art
I
studio,
used to
but it's
play
been
pool there,
vacant for
yes.
2 to 3 years now at least.
What sort of restaurant are they planning?
The type of food, I
I mean, is it, you know, I mean,
I believe it's a sports bar themed restaurant is what their plan includes, yes.
because it's not a super large space.
It actually goes back pretty deep along the side street, along, what is that, County Street? Is that? Deeper than
I think
it
that's
looks.
that's gonna be King, I think.
Oh,
you're
King,
York
you're right.
King.
Yes, it is.
Yes, yeah. And I do have a final interior rendering, which unfortunately did not arrive in time to include in this presentation. And because we've been having some internet issues this morning, I'm not able to show it to you on my computer on the screen because we can't work it in, but if anyone cares to see it, I do have it on my phone.
I think it's larger than, I mean, if you remember, for those of us who did play pool there, the pool tables were all on one side, and that was a pretty large area, and then the restaurant was on the other side. So if you opened it up, it actually is a lot bigger than it would have seemed.
I never played pool, I didn't eat it.
Just out of curiosity, it has nothing to do with my particular vote, but it seems like we're having a lot of sports restaurants in Portsmouth. Is that just my sense? I know you have Roger Brown. I think we're talking about the old TCC building possibly being a sports event. I thought I read somebody else was doing a sporting type restaurant. Is that, anybody have a sense of how many are happening in Portsmouth area?
I could be wrong, but I don't think the TCC project is planning to be a sports restaurant. Maybe next door in the Dollar General space. But I thought that was proposed to be a higher end steakhouse.
Yeah,
It's not a
restaurant.
sports bar that I'm with.
Huh?
That was it's not a sports bar that I'm with.
Right.
Okay,
That was
yeah,
a
I didn't,
PRD property before.
right.
It's a
I don't
restaurant, I
think
think
so.
Bowling, duck pen, place, and some other things.
Does this group, have they done restaurants before?
Not that I know of, no. I believe Mr. X has other business interest in Portsmouth, but not in restaurants.
They just received their use permit from council last meeting. And I know they've been working on this for quite some time. Originally, the old zoning ordinance had a distance separator, and because of the church, they couldn't get permitted. But when the ordinance was amended, that opened up.
I'll make the motion to approve it. Anytime somebody's investing, and we're reimbursing less than 20% of what they're actually investing into the property. So I'll make a move for to improve it.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. I'll read the roll.
Brian?
Oh, yes, Councilman Bell.
When we have folks that are doing something for the first time, or especially young people, it doesn't matter the color. I know this kid, they dream, and they take leaps of faith. They don't know how it's going to turn out, but the important thing as a society is that we feed their dreams and allow them to function in the positive manner in which they're approaching life. And that's why the council decided to support this effort. The square footage is much more than it appears. The folk have wonderful character, and I think this will be a good situation for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We have a motion and a second, so we're in need of a vote. So I will read the roll. Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Ms. Drury?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
And Chairman Smith?
Yes.
The item passes by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Do we offer the assistance of our, business development staff in terms of some of the businesses that apply for the real estate improvement program? In other words, a couple of the applications we've just reviewed, the questions really revolve around their business plan. And I don't know if we have the opportunity or the ability to assist them or review in terms of their business plan.
That's a great question. We do work closely with the applicants in situations where it is a business applying, because there are situations where a property owner can apply as well. But we do work closely with the businesses to understand exactly what it is they're proposing to do. Whether that's a situation where they're receiving a grant or not, and work to assist them if there's a need for additional further development of the plan or other resources that could be beneficial to them. Then we would work to put them in touch with partner organizations to assist if it's something we can't handle in-house or so forth. But that is something we always work to assist a business with.
You just touched on something when you said other resources available to assist the business. The property before this one, the Impact Center,
Yes, sir. Yes.
they could probably benefit from facade grant as well. If all the money that they're requesting is for interior build out, they could probably benefit from, looking at the photograph, they could definitely benefit from a facade grant as well. So is that something that we offered them in the application process of asking for the interior reimbursement fund?
Well, we have, if you recall, we have rolled that facade work into the current applications, which they have now maxed that out.
Okay.
It's my understanding, and Ms. Kraft would have to confirm, but they do have plans for some work on the outside as part of their overall
Right.
project to really kind of update the entire building. It's not just inside. That's the portion that was for your consideration. Assistance. They will be getting an overall facelift.
Okay.
And then in terms of, other opportunities for assistance, we often will direct a business to a partner organization like the Hampton Road Small Business Development Center. If there's need for additional financing, further development of a business plan, we have partners that we have access to that we can connect a business to very easily. So we do work to do that.
Well, and isn't part of the training, I thought the part of the training that they go through to get to this, that they have to complete also, I mean, I've seen it, I've gone through it. It has parts on business plans. So it does touch on it.
And that is the other, set of programs we are offering now, the Smart Start Business
Right.
Development and Acceleration Grant programs. So we have resources there as well. And some of these businesses may even be eligible for those programs. So we would look to assist further in that regard. But that's always something, to your question, Mr. Barber, that we're always cognizant. Chairman, we are in need of a closed meeting. I believe,
Yes.
okay. Mr. Mitchell has a motion.
I move to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711 A.3 for the purpose of discussing the acquisition or disposition of real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding strategic acquisition areas, and B, Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711 A.6 for the purpose of discussing the investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interest of a governmental unit would be adversely affected, specifically regarding 3315 High Street.
Nita,
Oh, I,
second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mitchell, and I think second by Mr.
Yes.
Drury. Thank you. Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Ms. Drury,
yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are now in closed meeting. Well, we'll leave this in open, and then we'll have the actual resolution.
I hereby move that each commissioner certify that to the best of his or her knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meetings requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened, heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Second, Mr. Barber, thank you. And I will read the roll. Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Ms. Drury,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are now in open meeting. And the next item on your agenda would be the introduction of a resolution for 3315 High Street. We will need a motion to add that
Yes.
item. Correct?
Motion to add item.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Brown and second by Ms. Saunders Smith. And I will read the roll. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Drury.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The motion passes and the item has been added to the agenda. Therefore, we would, in need of a motion for the resolution.
Yeah, well, I can go ahead and read the resolution,
Yes.
Chair, if you'd like to. Whereas by resolution adopted on August 17, 2021, the board approved a development grant to Helping Hands for Heroes, the developer, for the rehabilitation of 3315 High Street. And whereas in accordance with the resolution, the authority entered into an economic development grant incentive agreement with the developer, the agreement. And whereas the developer has requested and the board has agreed to amend the agreement to provide for the disbursement of the grant funds subject only to developers' submittal of documentation that the costs to be reimbursed have been incurred. Now therefore is hereby resolved that, one, the board hereby authorizes the amendment of the agreement in accordance with the intent of this resolution. Two, the chair and vice chair are each authorized to execute the amendment. Three, the chair, vice chair, and secretary and their designees are each authorized to take such further actions as are necessary or desirable in their sole discretion in furtherance of the purposes of this resolution. Four, this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its adoption.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Saunders Smith and a second by Mr. Brown. Thank you. We'll read the roll. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Drury.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Saunders Smith.
Yeah.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes. The resolution is adopted. The next agenda item is items submitted by board members.
Neil?
I have just a question, a couple questions for Brian. Any progress on the Frito-Lay building? I haven't seen much going on over there.
I can report to you that they are working on the outfitting of the building. The sign company was also out there, I think, in the last week to work on changing the signs out. I don't have a firm date for operation, but they are working inside and outside to get the building ready. My hope is that that would happen here in the second quarter, but I haven't received a firm date yet.
Second, I just would ask you to to convey the recent announcement we had over in the port, what was in Essence? I can't remember the name of I can't pronounce the name, the California company that's doing the joint project.
Yes, yes. Thank you for mentioning that, and happy to share an update on the former, what we call the former Cogentrix site, is what Commissioner Barber is referring to, the old coal-fired power plant on Wild Duck Lane, just adjacent to the Virginia International Gateway Terminal. Industrial Realty Group, which is the owner and developer of that site, has recently announced a build-to-suit partnership with a group by the name of Unis, a distribution and logistics firm based in California. They have reached an agreement and partnership with Unis to develop a 72,000 square foot transloading cross-dock facility where they will be processing those 20-foot equivalent unit containers that you see coming from the port, and breaking those down and sending those out the other side, a 53-foot trailer for distribution and so forth in areas within the region and outside the region as well. So really exciting that that property is now being developed. The city has assisted that site through the Port Host Community Grant program from the state. We received a grant award to assist with that project. And it is a sister project to a development in Suffolk, where they're developing a larger site for a 900,000 square foot facility. And both are really kind of part of the same overall project. They needed that larger square footage to land here and accommodate their needs here in Hampton Roads. So this will be, I believe, their 14th market location in the U.S. And we're really excited that the property will be under development. So they're in the site planning process now. So I would expect in the next 12 months.
To repeat the name?
The company is Unis, UNIS, California based.
I had two things. One, just wanted to renew that, I'm sure you're probably doing this, but that you will notify us of any ribbon cuttings they have, or notify us of us or any new businesses that are in Portsmouth, because somebody told me recently one that I had not heard of. I said, maybe I just missed it. But just wanted to renew that.
Yeah, that was on my list to bring up too.
Okay. And then secondly, we had talked about possibly having guest speakers from time to time. And one of the ones I'm interested in us having is someone from our Visitors Bureau, because just to give us an outlook at what they're planning, because we've come up with some really good suggestions that maybe that would be an opportunity for us to have that dialogue with them. So I would love to invite them to come.
Okay, and that was an item we were going to cover in the report back
Okay.
portion of the meeting, but I'm glad you brought it up, and that's definitely something we can make accommodations for at a later meeting. So it sounds like a representative from the tourism division would be of interest, and we can certainly make that request. I'll go ahead and touch on that a little bit further. I do believe that Commissioner Vice Chair Mitchell had a similar request. And I think that what I would ask of you is to go ahead and if there are any guest speakers or any topics that you would like to address outside of your normal course of business, if you could email those into the chair, and that way we can get them all together, kind of have a list, a running list, and we'll work to incorporate that into the agenda.
Email them to Malcolm.
Okay. So Commissioner
He's the
Mitchell.
catch-all guy.
So he will spearhead that, I guess. And we'll work to maybe get one, guest speaker per meeting as it. So I think it's a great idea, and we'll certainly work to accommodate that. One of Vice Chair Mitchell's requests was, I think, a speaker on Bloom, and then we had also talked about the co-working office, and then also I think from a minority business standpoint, best practices, we had some conversation about Ms. Angela Barber with the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity could also be a speaker at a future meeting. So we're going to look at some of those opportunities to bring them in.
And when we do that too, let's kind of reconsider our agenda so that they don't have to sit through, you know, those kinds of presentations. We can maybe do ahead of the financials, maybe.
Yes, we can move them up in the agenda so that we can, you know, get them in and out.
Right.
Oh, I do. First off, the state of the city, do we have the date on that? And is an invite going to come out?
You will be receiving an invitation
Okay.
for that. We traditionally will obtain multiple tables and invite both of our boards and commissions.
Okay.
The date is April 13th.
Okay.
And that's typically a midday, I want to say a noon to 2 o'clock timeframe. But as soon as we have that information with the details, we will send that out to you so you can get it on your calendar and RSVP. But yes, so you're aware April 13th is the.
And and I have one thing after this, but one, as we've talked about using different buildings and wanting to be, and the Craddock thing I love, but I will say this, as you drive down Cedar, I would love everybody to look, as you're sitting there at the light across from the fire station, there is a building for sale and it's 300,000 because I looked it up. But it's just sitting there and it's that weird shaped one. It's kind of tan. It's got these weird shapes. And every time I sit there, because I have kids at Churchland, I think, wow, you know, we talk about trying to reimagine what we do and how we use our buildings that are vacant. And that would be one that if, you know, someone like her could come in, but not for the homeless, but for the youth. I mean, it's sitting there between a high school and a junior high, and you see the kids walk into this 7-Eleven thing. I mean, I'm like, what an opportunity right there when we're looking at real estate. Yeah, it's right across from the fire station. It's been for sale forever and it's the weirdest shape. And I keep thinking, hey, it could be like, you know, yeah, you know, a place for kids to study, a place for kids to be mentored. I mean, just as we're thinking about outside the box and we're trying to improve our community, just, it's one of my thoughts as I sit there every time. So I was going to throw that out to y'all. And lastly, if you haven't heard, a few of you have, I have processed the initial paperwork to run for city council. So I've been getting my signatures. Thank you, Barbara, for helping me at that luncheon, and Ray for what you're doing. So far, people seem excited, and I'm almost done with my signatures. I'm still getting there, but now I'm just out there talking in the community and looking for help. So anybody that wants to throw out any help, I would love it as I get going. Still looking for a treasurer and a campaign manager. So thank you all for your support, and just wanted to put it out there.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I do. With this upcoming joint thing we have with city council, looking at the points, the 5 points that you have up here, are we gonna suggest or recommend that city council send out requests for proposals to get this work done? Because what I've observed in a couple city council meetings with unsolicited requests for proposals, councilmen do their best to shoot them down, and there are fabulous ideas in these proposals, but because of the fact that they're unsolicited, they fall by the wayside in city council. Yeah. So if we, with these points, these are very good points in here, but they all could be addressed, or they all could be entertained through a request for proposal, and open up a vibrant bidding session, a vibrant submission process from different developers, not just the local guys breeding and the local guys, but some of the top builders in the country are right here in Virginia, and not just localized in the Hampton Roads area. We could get better rates and better idea submissions coming from a broader category of prospective clients if we open it up more. So I think we should definitely recommend or kind of push them to get some solicited proposals for development.
Right.
So
you just use a good term when you say push, because that's exactly the strategy, is just the green light,
right,
for us to initiate, because we were prepared to do some things before and they all got mixed. So the goal of this is to get the green light from them for us to proceed with some particular things that we think may need to get going.
Right.
So, yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
exactly what we're gonna do.
And that's why I told you I want to share with you. I'll send it to you for
Okay.
review later on. And then you can
Right.
share with the rest of the
Okay.
commission.
Well, I found that very interesting because at that dinner we went to the other night at ODU, I spoke with 3 developers who told me that they won't submit anything in Portsmouth anymore because they've been shot down so many times.
Because they submitted unsolicited proposals and it's like.
I don't
nobody-
know, but they
if
said we
nobody
don't
asked
even
you-
bother with Portsmouth anymore.
Yeah, I bet you was Amanda Hoffler was one of them maybe. But if you submit an unsolicited proposal, I'll give you something that you're not even asking for. The odds of you accepting it are slim. So, but if you're asking for something and I give it to you, then there's a better chance of it being entertained. So that's why the Amanda Hoffler proposal that just got shot down was unsolicited proposal. Went through a great deal of review with the previous city manager. This city manager just had a new proposal sat down by Councilman Whitaker because it was unsolicited proposal, but full of good ideas.
Right.
So we want some proposals and solicit them, get them in, and then
Right.
we have a better chance of thriving.
The game plan is for us to approach them,
Right.
developers.
Right.
So we can initiate.
As it should be,
That's been cut off.
as it should be.
And that's what we want to get them to be on board with us, kind of leading the effort, maybe not, in every one of these, but what they will allow us to do.
Right.
And so that's what we're gonna press, that we move forward,
Right.
on these.
Great.
Okay.
I just got two questions. Once we get the money in our coffers, I think we need to have a meeting just to talk about properties we're going to pay off and what our plans are as soon as possible. So if someone asks, what are you going to do with potentially 7.6 million? We have some strategy of what we're going to do. And my second question is to you, Jeff. Since we own the Holiday Inn property, any unsolicited requests, shouldn't they come to us first?
Well, I think the request that was received was broader in scope and covered a lot of city property. And that's why I went through the PPA process with the city. I don't think there was a request just for the Holiday Inn parcel.
It was for the whole
It
waterfront.
was for the whole water.
From City Hall was included.
But if it was, legally, should it be coming to the owners of the property first, or should it be going to the city council?
Well, I think legally you could look at it coming to the EDA. I think practically any development that maximizes potential there is going to have to include city-owned property also.
But don't get me wrong, because I'm not an attorney. That's the attorney right there. But if it's unsolicited, I can send it to whoever I want to. It doesn't fall within the requirement if it's unsolicited because it's not being asked for. Once we put out bids for solicited proposals, then they have to follow the legal channels.
And the problem too is they don't understand how the unsolicited process works.
Right.
Council members don't. So we have to, and that's why they're not successful. And that's not the better way to do it either.
Right.
We should be leading.
Right.
Exactly.
So who we want, and how we want it.
Well, and that
So-
was the plan originally.
Originally. That's the problem, originally.
Yeah.
A whole lot of things. So, but we're gonna be on the track to try to get it going again. So that's the purpose of this meeting.
Great.
Okay. All right.
Any other items?
Anybody else items? Okay.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
We do have just a couple of report backs for you. First of which is a pending RFP for commercial real estate brokerage services, which is in the works. I'm happy to report that as of last Monday, we do have a new purchasing officer who's joined the city's team. That's Miss Gloria Taylor, and she took her position effectively last Monday. So we're going to be working with her as we completed the RFP package to the 99% level. We'll have to turn that over now and have Ms. Taylor oversee that process. And so that is something that we hope to do by the end of March, and then have that out on the street is April, which is along the lines of what we discussed previously. Unless there are any other questions about that, I did want to announce and share with the board that we do have a plan for an upcoming business incentives workshop, which will be taking place on March 31st. That's a Thursday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. We're holding that at Tidewater Community College and Student Center. We have reserved the space and we'll be providing a business workshop for all of the EDA's grant programs, in addition to state programs that are available as well. And we'll be continuing to advertise that for the existing and new business community in Portsmouth, but really want to spread the word about the different programs that are available and encourage their utilization. So that will be held again on March 31st, in a few weeks.
Do we have actual media, like advertising, media for this? TV commercials, radio commercials, or any type of
We
such?
have shared this via our social media platforms, so both our office and the cities. In addition to that, I believe we've done an e-blast through the city's marketing department.
The city has, but we have our own that we're gonna do as well.
Yeah, so we're going to continue to push this over the next couple of weeks in the lead up to the event to get the word out.
'Cause I have marketing and advertising outlets that I would make this information public at no cost to the city.
Well, we will share this.
Yeah, if you
digital
give me
flyer with
video
you.
files of.
We would love for you to do that. We would appreciate that. And we'll continue looking at other ways we can, share that and get the word out.
I've seen it a number of times on LinkedIn and Facebook, coming across both.
Okay, that was it. So, thank you.
Okay, and I think that should conclude our business, and thank y'all again for your patience and your understanding and your cooperation, and amongst the many other terms I can use for a great bunch of folks. You make, things simple and easy for me as far as the meetings go. But again, thank y'all, and after that being said, I will adjourn this meeting.